Melatonin is by far the most popular and highly consumed sleep supplement in the whole entire world. That being said, if you are struggling with insomnia, melatonin is not going to help you recover. In fact, it may even make the situation worse. And I know that because, hi, I'm Fiona, and I'm a recovered chronic insomniac turned holistic sleep coach. And I know what it feels like to try all of these things that we're continuously told to do, only to feel like nothing's actually working and we're still not sleeping. And I want to start by saying that it isn't your fault. You are not doing anything wrong. There is nothing wrong with you. You are just given the wrong information, which is why in today's video, I am going to be breaking down why melatonin is probably not working for you, and also how this could be contributing to the problem, and also what you can do about it if you feel like you're currently stuck and don't exactly know how to even start recovering from your issues with sleep. Let's start by talking about what melatonin even is, because I know that so many of us probably take melatonin without even knowing what it is or how it even works, and even should we even be taking it to begin with. So melatonin is actually naturally produced inside of our own bodies. It is our sleepiness hormone. It is released around the time of bedtime in order to signal that it is time for us to go to sleep. Melatonin does not make us sleep, okay? Even though we don't feel sleepy, it doesn't mean that we're not gonna not sleep, okay? So melatonin is simply those signals like, oh, like we're starting to yawn, our head is starting to kind of like fall heavy, our, mood is slowly starting to slow down. These are all signs that your body is starting to deploy melatonin. People may take melatonin if they feel like they are not getting tired or sleepy around the right time, okay? This could be someone experiencing jet lag because of constant travel, or maybe someone who works shift work, so they work into the early hours of the morning, so maybe their circadian rhythm is a little bit dysregulated. But ultimately, most people do not have a melatonin problem. In fact, all of us naturally produce melatonin inside of us. It is sometimes the conditions of our lives that sometimes block melatonin from being felt or experienced, not because it's not there, but because we live these highly stressed out lives, constantly exposed to bright light in the evening, that ultimately blocks melatonin. But it doesn't mean that melatonin is not there. So I do want to start by saying that you most likely do not have a melatonin problem or a sleepiness problem to begin with. And what does this mean in the context of insomnia? To break it down, insomnia is also misunderstood, and we're often told that we have a sleep problem, when in fact, insomnia starts because we have an initial stressor that affects our sleep. We then sleep badly, and because we're sleeping badly, we react negatively to the fact that we're not sleeping. And when that happens, we're conditioning our nervous system, which is the system inside of our biology aimed at keeping us safe, that not sleeping or wakefulness is something that we need to avoid. So the cycle, in fact, is perpetuated because whenever nighttime comes around, yes, we may feel sleepy, but we don't fall asleep because our nervous system is purposefully trying to keep us awake in order to fight off wakefulness. That also ultimately means that we do not have an issue with sleep. Sleep is completely fine. The problem is that we're getting in between sleep even happening because we are worried about what will happen if sleep doesn't happen, okay? When we're struggling with insomnia, it tends to be a paradoxical problem, meaning that the harder we try and chase sleep, the less likely it is going to happen. And that is because we're trying so hard for us to achieve this thing that our nervous system is conditioned and reinforced on a day-to-day basis. Right, I need to make sure that I'm sleeping, hence I need to avoid wakefulness. But the more that you're conditioning and creating this loop and this cycle, this paradoxical problem, the more you're actually making yourself awake at night. You're in fact increasing your level of alertness, your level of hypervigilance at night, and you can take as much melatonin as you want, but you're not actually addressing the root problem. And that is what most of the world gets wrong, okay? You have issues with sleep and you're automatically told to treat the symptom. So when it comes to melatonin and insomnia, the reason why you may not be experiencing any difference in your in your sleep is because you are trying to control the outcome and make sleep a focus, when in reality, the more you place that as a focus, the more it tends to backfire, because the more you're confirming to your nervous system that wakefulness truly is something that you need to avoid. On a second note, you're taking melatonin in order to fix sleep, when sleep is not the reason why you're not sleeping. Melatonin can also exist inside of our body and inside of our biology, and we don't feel tired, not because the tiredness is not there, but because our levels of stress are higher, which are also hormones, which are higher than our levels of melatonin. So meaning, yes, you're feeling tired at night, but you're feeling more stress, more adrenaline, more cortisol that are masking these feelings of tiredness in order to protect you and keep you hyper vigilant to protect you from wakefulness. So if you're taking melatonin and it's backfiring, it's not because there's a problem with you, it's because your body is actually working in the way that it is naturally designed to work, which is rooted by safety and rooted by survival. And these supplements, without us realizing, slowly become the small little like sleep gremlins, or like the sleep efforts that actually perpetuate the cycle of insomnia. Whenever we try and deploy certain actions in order for us to control sleep, we are conditioning our nervous system that sleep is fragile, that sleep is something that we need to control, when in fact, sleep is a completely uncontrollable outcome. It is in fact a completely passive process. You need to start thinking of sleep as breathing, okay? Breathing is something that we don't usually even think about. It just happens in the absence of us thinking about it. And sleep is exactly the same. So when we start kind of thinking that we need to do all of these things in order for sleep to happen, we're actually getting in the way of sleep happening naturally. And we're conditioning to ourselves that sleep is delicate. These are sleep efforts. Taking melatonin, or drinking specific teas, or taking magnesium. These are all efforts that you deploy with the intention of preserving or maintaining your sleep. And they tend to backfire because all they do is that they reconfirm over and over and over again that sleep is in fact this fragile and uncontrollable outcome, right? So the more you actually take them and the less they work, and even if they do work momentarily, then your nervous system was going to very quickly latch on to the idea that, okay, I need to do something else, or I need to like maybe take more melatonin, or maybe it's because something genuinely is wrong, when in reality, nothing is wrong. It's how we perceive the information and perceive the situation, that is keeping us in this cycle to begin with. And if you're watching this and you're thinking, gosh, like I try all these things to make myself sleep and melatonin just doesn't work anymore, it used to, it's not your fault. It really isn't your fault. It's also not the fault of like everyone around you. And that is because insomnia is so misunderstood. Most people don't, like 99% of people, including doctors, do not understand the cycle of insomnia. So every single time you're told to do these things, you're naturally doing it out of self-kindness and compassion ultimately, because of course the situation is uncomfortable. And if you do want to learn what insomnia really is and how to actually start breaking the cycle, then I'm going to go ahead and invite you to my 5 days to better sleep email newsletter that is linked here below, where you can start understanding, okay, what insomnia really is and how you too can start breaking the cycle with less efforts than that you've actually been made to believe. And if you do have any other questions, comments, or concerns, please go ahead and also drop those in the comment section below, and I promise to get back to you.